Phil Mickelson was right. And now the PGA Tour colleagues he left behind are reaping the rewards. This week's unveiling of next year's PGA schedule was informed by the disruptive presence of the LIV Golf Series. Tour prize money will be bigger than it's ever been. The best players will command more of it than they ever have. It was a little more than 6 months ago that the golf world was collectively throwing rocks at Phil Mickelson. When Mickelson was revealed to have made unsavory comments regarding a plan to form a competing golf tour funded by Saudi Arabia's riches, the backlash was loud and definitive. Sponsors fled in disgust. Rory McIlroy called Mickelson's words naive, selfish, egotistical, ignorant. And his ramblings were all those things. He called the Saudis scary mothers, only worse. He justified doing business with them while acknowledging their horrible human rights record, as a once-in-a-lifetime chance to gain leverage on the folks who run the PGA Tour. And not long after, Mickelson was suspended by the tour for his brash disloyalty. 6 months later, mind you, it's difficult not to see his comments, though undeniably crass, as remarkably clear-eyed. If you can set aside your ill feelings about the source of LIV Golf's bottomless pit of lucre, and if you can, don't overlook the fact that Saudi Arabia does plenty of business with the global community, including billions in annual trade with Canada. There's no denying that the sudden presence of a competitor in the market has acted as exactly the leverage point of which Mickelson spoke. While the PGA calls the Saudis a non-economic motivated actor because their outlays are investments in the kingdom's global image, never mind resultant income, Mickelson was dead right about what the infusion of money would do for his former tour colleagues. This week's unveiling of next year's PGA Tour schedule, after all, was informed by the disruptive presence of the LIV Golf Series. With a competitor continuing to poach players, and it's possible more defections will be announced after this weekend's wrap-up of the FedEx Cup playoffs at the Tour Championship in Atlanta, the resultant reaction by the market incumbent has proven lucrative for the PGA's best. Next year, Tour prize money will be bigger than it's ever been. The best players will command more of it than they ever have. And, as in the style of LIV Golf, many of them will get paid a sum not related to prize money to acknowledge their impact on the game. Even the PGA's staunchest defenders have had to acknowledge that Mickelson, for all his ill-advised blabber, was onto something. As much as I probably don't want to give Phil any sort of credit at all, yeah, there were certain points that he was trying to make, McIlroy told reporters this week. Were some of Mickelson's ideas, did they have merit? Of course, they did. But he just didn't approach it the right way. He didn't approach it the right way. But even if LIV Golf's product has so far failed to wow, its presence has had an undeniable effect. With the Saudi-backed venture offering guaranteed money and no-cut events, the PGA is suddenly softening its grind for every dollar ethos. Exempt members will now receive what amounts to a minimum salary of $500,000 US, plus stipends to cover expenses. Even golfers who miss the cut will get a $5,000 check as they slam their trucks. And there's a new push to get the best together more consistently beyond the 4 majors and top-tier events such as the Players' Championship. So goes the idea for 13 so-called elevated events well beyond the usual suspects. There'll also be an increase in payouts from the Player Impact Program, which rewards golfers deemed to move the needle in fan and sponsor engagement. Last year, Tiger Woods collected the inaugural program's $8 million top prize even though he earned a meager $64,200 in events. This year, that prize pool has been doubled. That means the PGA's most popular players are being paid in this instance not for shooting low scores, but for merely being who they are. And that push to swell the net worth of those who move the needle is expanding. The Tour's new definition of top players, linked to player impact metrics and not their current playing form, appears to grant entrance to some of the most lucrative events based more on popularity than world rankings. It was just last month that Woods railed against those who followed Mickelson to prepaid riches, even though LIV Golf filled out its roster with 5 of the top 10 finishers from the 2021 Player Impact Program: Mickelson, Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka, Bubba Watson and Bryson DeChambeau. What these players are doing for guaranteed money, what is the incentive to practice? Woods said at the Open Championship. What these players are doing for guaranteed money, what is the incentive to practice? Woods, you'll note, isn't turning down the guaranteed check, not for digging low scores out of the dirt, but for being himself. And hypocrisy aside, He shouldn't have to apologize for cashing in on his status as the most important figure in the sport. Still, the hypocrisy is palpable. Without the leverage provided by the rebellion led by Mickelson and LIV CEO Greg Norman, it's safe to say Woods wouldn't be cashing in so lavishly on these new income streams. There are plenty of questions that remain. How will LIV's ongoing antitrust lawsuit against the PGA Tour turn out? One thing is for sure, when PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan was asked whether or not LIV defectors might one day find their way back to the tour over which he presides, he offered a definitive no. Which only makes sense. Mickelson chose his path, signing on for a reported payday of $200 million to join the Saudis. The one who set the table, in other words, won't be invited to the feast, but neither is he due to starving.